Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Greet your neighbors. What's going on in your life?
Exactly. Whatever. There's all kinds of interpretations.
That's right. Our invocation today will be given by Joe Zecker.
Good afternoon. I may enjoy a beautiful weekend. We're down at the Kids Day at the library and Rib Fest at the fairgrounds. It was really good day. Let's pray. Father, as I drive around the course of our community and I see our wonderful Rotary flags out there, I'm reminded of the service above self. And as we head into these summer months, Independence Day, I think of how blessed we are that so many have gave of themselves for this nation. God, I pray for our nation. I pray for its course to be steady and true, faithful to its founding. I'm thankful for this club, the friendship, and the great camaraderie that we have, and the work that gets done not only in our community, in our state, but in many other countries that this reaches. I'm thankful for the fellowship of this group, and Lord, we just thank you and praise you in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Joe. So a couple of you may have realized that our speaker's not quite here yet. So I think Kim's out there holding her breath. If he doesn't show up, I understand Kim's going to sing for us all. So hopefully he'll be here shortly. Hope everybody had a great weekend. What a great weekend weather-wise it was. Kudos goes out to the Triway girls softball team for winning the state tournament. That was exciting. That was a great win for them and great for Wayne County to have a team out there winning the state championship. Last Thursday, I had the privilege of presenting our scholarship awards at the Wooster High School Senior Awards. So that was nice. It was 7 o'clock last Thursday night. Got to meet a few of our scholarship students. Hopefully we'll have a few of them here next week to present and recognize their awards to them. Right now, the Rotary International Convention is going on in Houston, Texas. So Greg and Courtney and Matt are all down there. Greg just sent me a picture a few minutes ago in the email and said, hey, if you want to share this picture, but I didn't have time to get it in for the presentation, but they're down there now. And you can see in the little lighter blue tab over there to the right, they've announced next year it's going to be in Melbourne, Australia. So for those of you who want to be president next year, you can start campaigning now, right? Flags should be down now for Memorial Day. You'll still see some up around town. I think the city puts out theirs, they leave theirs up for this period of time. But most of the others should be down. They'll be going back up the end of this week, June 9th and 10th. It's always a very short period of time between these two holidays. And then they'll be up through July 4th. So we will be looking for troubleshooting helpers. Currently we have 3, so we're looking for a few more. And that'll likely take place on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So if you're interested in that, let Lee King know or myself know, plug you in. And then we'll have a break after this holiday until September. So always a lot of activity in a very short period of time. Also, just a reminder, I'll highlight Opry event on June 18th. Laura let me know that they are actually sold out now, but that she still has a block of tickets that she was holding. So if you are interested and you haven't bought a ticket, we can still get you one, but we're going to need to know by the end of this week. So if you're interested and you don't have one, let us know or contact Laura directly. So today in history, well, of course, today is June 6th, so we can't have a today in history without recognizing D-Day for the Allied invasion of Normandy. So 1944, quite a few years ago. So with that, I will turn it over to Secretary Lynn and the Secretary's report.
Thank you, President Terry. Amy Welty has our traveling microphone, and we will start with Judy Wortham-Wood.
Hi, and I have some news that relates to my guest. I'm retiring June 30th, therefore my replacement, Brenda Cronin, is here with me today.
Next, Joel Montgomery, right in front of you. This one.
And my guest today is my son Josh, partner at Rail Law.
And then Ron Olmsted.
My guest today, Lucas Gaffney, is the Director of Graphics at Wooster Crush, and my fellow Commissioner, Sue Smith.
Thank you, Amy. And we would like to officially recognize Russell Robertson, his first official meeting. Russell is Director of GIS Planning for the county, and he was sponsored by James Fox. Welcome.
Lynn, I was hoping you'd take a little more time.
Well, maybe we could have Russell.
Are there any other announcements from the floor? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Maybe that's our speaker. I did want to thank Greg Barbu for coming out and taking pictures last week at Thursday's event at the scholarship recognition. I forgot to say thank Greg, so I appreciate that. Kim, any thoughts? Okay. Well, why don't we just take a little break here until about 12:30, so talk amongst yourselves. Ted, did you have an announcement? We'll get you the microphone.
I ran into Mary Everhart this weekend, and she was taking some food out to Weston Manor, where they've transferred Ed and celebrating their 69th wedding. Wow. That's awesome.
Any other announcements from the floor? I think I only have 3 more meetings after today.
I'm not volunteering right now. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I need to turn.
So that's fine. I just want to make sure because we sent out a bunch of. Let's see if we can send out a check. I just want to make sure. Big pen, size speaker.
Is there? We have a pretty good record.
That's with one of my guys in my office there, Franchise. Stage sweeps. I have to get tattooed and me. My boots. The high state sweeps, he's got to get locked up. Yeah, they play the Labor Day weekend this year. Same weekend next year. Well, I'm on the push.
Yeah.
He's looking for a push.
Yeah.
I'm fatal.
Yeah.
So we may have to bring that up for the video.
Yeah.
It's PG right now.
Yeah. It is a couple minutes fast, but it is 1:30. Yes. Staying away down there. Yeah, it's like, get you going here.
All right. One announcement that I forgot, as I was talking about the OLO event, is that the performance reception starts at 6 o'clock, and Laura tells me that's being hosted by Grigio. So that has any impact on your decision to go to the event, that'll start at 6 p.m. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim Sayers to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you. All right, so President Terry's focus for this year has been service. And so today's speaker is this quarter's program about service. Brandon Edwin Chrostowski is founder, president, and CEO of EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute, which he founded in 2007 for the purpose of changing the face of re-entry in the United States. He started EDWINS with the belief that every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future. I had a pretty full bio to share with you, but in the interest of time, let me just say Brandon has received numerous awards for his efforts and his work. He has a bachelor's degree of culinary, associate's degree in culinary arts, and a bachelor's degree in business and restaurant management from the Culinary Institute of America. He apprenticed under Charlie Trotters in Chicago after graduation. He worked in Paris, where he fine-tuned his love and interest in French cuisine. And he came back to the United States, worked under some pretty stellar folks in New York City. When it came time to move on from New York City, he chose Cleveland. And I will let him tell you why he chose Cleveland. Please, let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Chef Brandon.
All right. Well, how's everyone doing? Good. All right. All right. How's everyone doing online? Judge Wiles is moving an inch. She's not moving. It makes me nervous, Judge. I thank you, and I appreciate you being flexible with my tardiness here. I was driving down, a little construction here and there. For the most part, great drive and beautiful setting. So my name is Brandon Chrostowski. I founded EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute in 2007. It was an idea that I actually had in 2004, and really didn't open the restaurant until 2013. So as you can imagine, there's some distance in between there, and maybe some explanation of what happened, right? So the story of EDWINS, which I'd like to share with you, is part of it. What we do today is like chapter 2, and the third part is, in fact, where we're going and how we continue to disrupt or to influence what's going on out here where the men and women are going to prison. So the short of it, I'll start at the beginning. I started this because I myself got arrested, not once, but maybe twice, maybe a third time. But the first time was probably the most influential and impactful because I was put in the county jail and processed like choice beef, maybe even like select beef, right? It wasn't very pleasant. You know, they take you from a cell to a cell or a jail to a jail. And it's this dehumanizing process that if you've been in the system, you understand what I'm saying. And I had a great break though. I had a great fortune by having a sentence instead of 5 or 10 years. I had probation instead. Okay. In Detroit, I mean that's where I'm from. Part of that was because I'm a white guy in Detroit. It helps. Also, I believe truly the grace of God was a big reason in this decision the judge made. Nonetheless, I was free, and a lot of, I don't know about you, but I really got to taste freedom of what it felt like once I lost it. So it was a great moment, and this is all happening when I was 18 years old, right? At that same time, I meet this chef in downtown Detroit. Is there any Detroiters here or Michiganders here? No Wolverine fans, I take it. Tough crowd. Nonetheless, in Detroit, there's a strip called Woodward. It's a large street. It's like the Broadway in New York. It's Woodward in Detroit. And there's a chef there in this restaurant who took me under his wing, and he taught me it's not practice that makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. And these lessons at a young age really gave me this foundation in culinary arts and hospitality. And I'm 18 going on 19. So it was like the best gift you could have, right? It was like a professional French chef teaching you the right way to do something at a time when I didn't have much direction and was just like thankful that I had freedom. And so I poured everything into it. I fell in love with the kitchen from day one. I'm still in love with the kitchen today. I have I'm nothing but smiles when I wake up and when I come home. So it all started with that break and that mentorship. And this is key because EDWINS itself today is built on those same two principles, a second chance and perfect practice. That's what we do. I got out of Detroit. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. If anyone's familiar with the school, pretty good school, right? It's like the Harvard of culinary schools. And it's set up in the Hudson Valley, which is like God's country. You know, you got the Hudson River flowing through it and the hills and mountains. It's just beautiful. But when I got to the Culinary Institute of America, I realized one thing right away. I wasn't just learning these skills, I was refining them. And that gave me a tremendous amount of confidence. Not only was it the first person in the family to go through or go to college out of state, so there's a little bit of trepidation, but when I got there, I knew I belonged. I was like a leader. And these all boil back to those lessons that the chef taught me in Detroit. So I said, why not, man? I mean, what do I got to lose? I'm 20, 21. Why not work for the best chef in the country? And at that time, it was Charlie Trotter in Chicago, Illinois. So I worked for Chef Trotter. And if anyone has heard of Chef Charlie Trotter, he was a real SOB. I mean, the guy was real SOB. If you don't know what SOB means, he was the worst, right? But he was also the best, okay? So you have to find this balance. Now, I'm 42, at 35, I don't know if I would work for Chef Charlie Trotter, okay? But at 21, that's all I do. And what do you say to a chef? Yes, chef. You do what he says, right? But everyone that worked for a Chef Charlie Trotter has done great things beyond food. They've disrupted a system of, or a culture of, or you fill in the blank of. He built this mental strength in you. And how he did it was very ruthless, but it worked, okay? Like he asked me to shovel the back alley in Chicago in January, and he gave me a 4-inch spade shovel to do it. I mean, yeah, it's not the nicest move, but you say, yes, chef, you do it, and you overcome. He would put tasks in front of you when you didn't think you had any more time and space, he would challenge you with, okay? So mentally, you start to feel like you can do anything. That's in fact the lesson I learned there, is you can make anything happen with what you have. With what you have right now, inside of you, around you, that's all it takes to succeed is with what you have. And it's like a really radical concept, but it's like a really easy concept to understand. He also has some other ideas. He gave me this book called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, which I've never read because it was too thick, but I Googled it once. I said, this guy's on a different level, right? But the point is, he did something that worked. So after that, I went to France. And in France, I learned that a couple of things. When I was flying over the Atlantic, I was illiterate. I couldn't read, write, or speak French. And when I arrived, I just worked hard, and I worked my way from Tours, which is central France, up to Paris and Michelin 3-star, which was unbelievable. And it was all through hard work. So I learned quickly too that hard work doesn't have a language. Okay, so take all these lessons. Perfect practice makes perfect. The idea that you can do anything you have with what you have, right? And this concept that regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, whatever, hard work doesn't have this language, right? It was just like these 3 things that always sit in me. Nonetheless, I thought it was pretty cool. And I moved to New York because I was going to be the best chef in the world because New York is the world, right? And so I started working and I started doing exactly what I set out to do, except that in 2004, I got calls from back home, the same chef that mentored me, who said, Brandon, you remember Quinton? And I said, of course I remember Quinton. Like, I lost all my basic lessons in that kitchen with that guy. So like how to make mayonnaise, right? Has anyone ever made mayonnaise? It's like this miracle, right? If you're like adding oil, the next thing you know, it's like, it looks like the shelves, it looks like, helmets. It's amazing, right? I learned how to julienne. I learned how to do things like make creme brulee and all these fundamentals I learned next to this guy, Quinton. So you can see my innocence was lost in that kitchen in Detroit next to this young man named Quinton, who's just sweet. And he says, he was murdered. He was stabbed countless times, found in an abandoned building, and so on. And so I was going on the way to Le Cirque, I was like 55th and Park Avenue, and I said, this is awful. And as life goes on, you just have to say, no matter what, you keep moving, you keep moving. So I kept moving, but no more than 2 weeks later, he called and said the sous chef got murdered. And then someone else thrown in prison. And then all these things started to pile up, and it was really hard to fathom myself working on these ovens. They're called Bonnet ovens. They're made out of copper and brass, like, I don't know, $500,000 oven. It's just an oven, right? You can go to Walmart and buy one for $500. It was crazy. I'm working on these ovens with these copper pots. We're serving $10,000, $15,000 bottles of wine, and life is just going like this, yet in a certain place, life is not like that. In fact, someone doesn't even have a breath. And it was a struggle for me personally. And I said, I'm going to do something to change that. So I'm going to build a restaurant, a French restaurant, that's going to be the best. And it's going to help men and women who are coming out of the criminal justice system, might be, have a propensity to go to the criminal justice system. And that's how Edwin's was born, this idea in 2004. So I wrote this plan down. And for like 9 years, people laughed and ridiculed and said, impossible, right? Because it was never built in this country. Something that has never been built in this country until Edwin's came along. And so it started to happen. I was in New York. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm ready. That was 2008, 2009. I said, but I need to know where to do it. I wanted to come to Cleveland, Ohio, the question you posed. It's because I had the worst graduation rate in the country for high school. I wanted to go to the place with the worst system that would pretty much predict prison rates. And I said, I knew that's where I needed to be. Now, I remind you here, I'm a chef. I'm a basic guy. You give me a carrot, I peel the carrot. You cook the carrot, okay? There's not much you think of in between. And so when building a plan that hasn't been built before, I just thought simply, where was the need? How could I make that work? And then just go at it. And that's what happened. I moved to Cleveland, right? Great place. And I started teaching in prisons, Grafton Correctional Camp. I don't know how far Grafton is from here. You're probably familiar with that area. And that class continues today. 10 years later, we go inside, we bring in salmon, we'll bring in filet, we bring in knives, we bring in everything that you shouldn't in a prison. But we do. It makes people nervous, but the food tastes good, and somehow it works. And when men and women get released, they're not coming back. Okay, that's why it works. We're allowed to do this because there's not that return back to prison. In any event, so that was the first beginning of Edwin's, this idea that you could do things outside of the norm, do it the right way, give someone an opportunity, and boom, there you go. 2013, I finally cobbled enough money together, and I bled myself dry. I had $10.48 in my bank account, which is hilarious. I printed the bank statement out. I have it today. When I opened Edwin's, I had nothing. I had nothing. It was great. I had nothing. And what was even better was I was signing these leases and contracts for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and no one ever asked me once. I just put a suit on, I smiled, I had a haircut, I was like, okay. And I made it happen. It was like, I still laugh about it to this day, that I had nothing and it worked. But nonetheless, we did it, we opened it up. Edwin's, as it is today, if you haven't eaten there, is a fine dining French restaurant, about 65 seats, right? Nice ambiance, right? Candles and little flowers on the table, right? And we play Motown music, which is a twist. Some people want Edith Piaf or Beethoven. It's not happening. And we serve great French food, the same that I would serve in Manhattan or Paris. And it's all done by men and women coming out of the criminal justice system, right? So we have classes that are 6 months long. When you begin, we hit hard with basic things like, hey, do you have an ID or a license? How about your bank account? We're gonna have to get one of those, health insurance, just make sure you got something, right? So we go through the basics of what it's gonna take to become a professional business person. We also start challenging with skills like culinary and math, which isn't like, trust me, chefs doing math, we're not going through the theory of relativity here, but we know how to make a dollar. So we put out a profit and loss statement. We say, this is where we're at, this is where the money's going. This is how you dial it back to the point of every pinch of salt costs you this much, you need to charge that much because you have to pay this off, right? It's a true understanding of the business because most of these businesses fail in the restaurant business. And we want you off on the right foot to start looking at every little detail so when you grow, that is in you, okay? So we do that, gastronomy, history of food, serve safe, and then you go into the restaurant and you'll work every position over those next 5.5 months. So you'll host, you'll serve, you'll bartend, you'll work every station in the kitchen. And when you come out, a lot's happened to you, okay? A lot's happened to you. And that's kind of where I want to focus here, is what makes Edwin successful, okay? We have a less than 1% recidivism rate, okay? So when someone graduates our program, less than 1% of the time, they're not going back to prison. And nationally, you're around 50%, okay? What we do works. Now, we also have housing, we've got 4 buildings for housing. So when you come to us, you have free apartments to stay in, We've got a library, a fitness center, a kids park. We have graduate housing, we have family housing. We have a whole 40,000 square foot campus, which is next to our butcher shop and bakery, which helps build your life back. But truly, there's 5 principles that we've boiled this down to that make this work. And the first one of which is meeting someone where they're at. So regardless of the business that you're in, just think about these 5 principles because they apply to any business, okay? We meet you where you're at, not where we want you to be or talk like we want you to talk or look like we want you to look. We say, hey man, do you want to do this? And they say, yes, I want to do this. You know it's a school, right? Have you been following the criminal justice system? They say yes. Then if that's the case, we start going forward. We never once ask about what their offense was, nor do we ask about what education level was. I mean, I just told you I was illiterate in France, so I was pretty stupid to some people, but to others, I was a hardworking asset. So we meet someone where they're at, and we take them to where they want to go. The next thing that's very important that we do is we teach to the top. You know, we talked about this perfect practice makes perfect by Chef George. Look at man, elite skills are always employable, no matter if it's a recession or a hard time. The best of the best are working, right? They have a skill, they have something that can make money or save money for a business, and that's why you're getting hired. We also make sure pillar number 3 is we show the whole perspective of the business. This is really key for a lot of reasons. One is when you see the whole way that your business works, and again, whatever business you're in, if you can see it from the sales floor to the executive's office, you're going to understand what your action has a reaction to, and you can better fit and be productive inside these cultures, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is as you learn each position that we teach you, you kind of break and rebuild that muscle of esteem. And it truly takes a full 6 months to make sure someone feels like they're humanized again. From whatever happened in prison or whatever's happened in life or through poverty or through whatever tough time, it takes this break and rebuild mentality to get someone to feel confident with who they are and what they do. So like when someone's serving, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. You know, they got to serve on people, you know, and they find out they can do it and they're pretty good at it. And then next thing you know, I can do this. Now, before they get a little too cocky, there's too much swagger. We say, okay, now you're bartending. Oh, so you know, back again, I can't make you drink. The next thing you know, I'm pretty good at making you get the point, right? Do that for 6 months, and next thing you know, someone feels very good. So changing positions not only is educational, it's also fulfilling, right? And the last reason truly that it's helpful, when our graduates leave, in 6 months they're with us, they leave, they'll go to another business, they'll go to another restaurant. And oftentimes in our field, in culinary arts, you're kind of like another gear in the machine. And that might be true for other businesses. But unfortunately, our gears want to be moved up to better gears, right? They want to be better. And if you ever feel like you're being oppressed or not getting the opportunity, you can now say, I know I can because I did, rather than someone just going into a restaurant blindly. They're allowed to wash dishes and they're allowed to prep, and they feel like this is their career. They've done what they can do, but when you see what you're capable of, now you start to question, why can't I be more, do more in this environment? So showing the perspective of an industry is like really key. The 4th pillar we do is care, and from building the housing to having case management. I mean, you don't have to be like off the deep end care and do all these sort of things, but simply by asking how someone's day was, making adjustments if something's off. It could be a transportation issue, it could be a childcare issue, whatever it may be. Care. If you care just a little bit more, you'll find that things tend to work out a little bit better. Relationship, the trust, productivity, you name it. I can go both sides of the aisle, man. We can talk numbers, we can talk social, we can talk, it works, okay? And lastly, step 5, our pillar is we get out of the way. It's really important to not have someone feel like they're beholden to us, right? And say, oh, you know, I did this for you, now you owe me this. And sometimes relationships are built like that, where, you know, you do something and someone wants something in return. We just want you to do good. And we found following these 5 pillars, and again, none of them are culinary specific, that it really works. And now talking outside of culinary, we do this with manufacturers who are global. We work with their cultures and help them, hire, build systems around people who may have a disadvantage to some others, right? And we use those 5 pillars, and guess what? It works. We've opened up other restaurants that, not for us, but we've opened up for other people, instilling these 5 pillars, and it works. So I think it's as complicated as Edwin might see. For someone on the outside, they say, well, they got a lot of moving parts. They're global, they're outside the country, or whatever it might be. It's really not that complicated. We meet a human where they're at. We teach them to the top. We expose them to what's out there. We care. And we move out of the way. So pretty simple. It's just hard. It's just hard work, I like to say. So lastly, where we're going. Okay. So Edwin's works, and we're very proud of it, but it doesn't work without a full tank of gas. Like, we are constantly working hard. There's no less of a 90-hour work week for myself. And so no matter how much happens, you still got to be on the ground doing the work, right? So we've expanded with our campus, right? I told you we have a couple buildings with the family housing, graduate housing. It's great. We have another restaurant, EDWINS 2, that opened during the pandemic. We actually got busier during the pandemic. We doubled business. We needed more space. So I went after a good deal, right? Things were selling for nothing. And then the butcher shop and bakery. So that's kind of our core. But as we grow, we're doing a couple things. One, we're getting more into prisons outside of Ohio, and we're doing that via tablets. There's these tablets that certain prisons and states allow to be had by inmates. And on that tablet is our educational program, 35 hours long. It's videos, it's reading, it's quizzes. And if you finish that program, Cleveland Browns will pay for your transportation in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where we house you for free. And then you get educated and you make a small amount of money. You can really kind of start to turn your stars around if you wish. And so we're really doubling down on that and how that technology interfaces with what we do. Because I hate technology. I do. I just, my BlackBerry just got cut off, right? Like a couple months ago. And my wife laughs at me like, oh, you got BlackBerry. I told someone at the bar yesterday, I was like, yeah, my BlackBerry. I really didn't think anyone got affected by that. And I was like, yeah, I did. It really hurt, you know? And I had 3 of these things, man. I was like ready to go the distance. Like one breaks, I got another one. I'm not a technology guy, but I do believe in having access into places where it's dark and people can't see maybe the next day or the next week or the next month or year, and injecting in that sort of that belief and that hope, but also making it achievable, tangible hope. Okay, so we're doubling down on that. I haven't made it public yet because we got to get through zoning, but I've raised about 250,000 out of 350 to open a child care center. Bless you. And the child care center is free, right? It's going to be free child care for our staff, for our students. So as we cut things down, the barriers such as housing or transportation, because the campus is 2 blocks away, child care is also a big thing. You know, 80% of our students who start our program with kids don't finish. That's too many. You know, we got grandparents. Oh, my wife has her parents in town, so it's pretty easy child care. But for a lot of people, it's not, especially good, safe child care. That's really important. So we're going to continue to drive this deeper here in Cleveland. We're going to continue to care more, and we're going to continue to get this out here to other people to know what's possible, how it's possible, and so on, because this isn't a hard philosophy to get your mind around. It's hard work, but not a hard philosophy. And I know if we can take that idea of a second chance and make it more tangible for employers and for the community at large to understand. So I think I'm pretty close to my time, and we could open up for a couple questions if it's all right. We got 5 minutes or so. Okay, sweet. So please, if you have any questions, this is generally where the rubber hits the road, and I'm happy to talk more about it or less about it. Did you guys already eat already? So I'm not in between you and food. That's okay. Yes, sir.
Congratulations on the 1%. How do you calculate that? What time frame?
Yeah, anyone who's returned back to prison within any time frame, a week, 2 weeks, 3 years, 5 years. I mean, we've been open for 9 years now, so our first class graduated 8 years ago. Yeah, we track it, we keep in touch. As transient as any of us are, right? I mean, sometimes I lose a cell phone, and next thing you know, but yeah, it's gone pretty well.
Hi, I'm from the Mental Health and Recovery Board. We have a local reentry coalition. What would be the best way for us to stay in contact with you and help folks get you?
Yeah, I mean, just reach out. I'll give you my cell phone, I'll give you my email. It's easy. Reach out. We got a pretty robust staff in terms of case manager, community outreach coordinator. And they've got enough to where we can develop a direct line of contact with us. And again, we don't ask any question, man. We say, hey, have you been in criminal justice? And yes, right, you're in. So no offense, doesn't matter. We don't care.
Yes, thank you. Have you been to Poland lately? And if so, can you tell us about that?
Yes, I have. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I was in Poland back in March, you know, kind of this whole refugee thing ballooned, right? And went over there for a couple of days, about a week, and just cooked, you know, cooked, and then also worked with some, just work with an organization like Ukraine World Congress to understand better what's going on over there, how we can influence and help, and so on. So Yeah, it was really sad, man. It was really sad. It was a powerful trip. I'm glad I went. I was in Primish, which is southeastern Poland, right on the border. Like the border was that table, and this is Poland, so clearly it was right there. And it was the #1 place where refugees were coming out of Ukraine. And just to see how it functioned and how humans stepped up to make it happen, but at the same time, the sheer quantity of humans was off the charts, man. Like if you could imagine going to like an IKEA or like a Sam's Club, and just imagine that filled with women and children and filled. Like you can't, I mean, you can, but you can't until you see it. You walk in, the strongest man or woman would cry in a couple steps. I didn't. I mean, the first couple steps I got into one of these, I was like, bad. But I could, you know, focus on cooking and doing something that was productive. Or I ran it Kelly Kasama. I ran the whole operation there when refugees were coming in. We received them. There's something you can do, right? But yeah, it was a good trip. It's sad to be there, you know. On the bright side, I flew this airline called Lot Air. Have you ever heard of Lot? Yeah, dude, they give you as many beers and wine as you want. I mean, so like on one side, it was exhausting, right? I was sad. I was there. I was really sad. On the way home, I met this guy, and he's like, you know, they don't you can have as many beers, We had fun on the way home. So it made me feel better coming home a little bit more. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, recently, my husband and I ate at Edwin's, and it was a fantastic experience. Encourage everybody, it's fantastic, the service was wonderful. And I appreciate this whole concept.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, come to Edwin's, man. Check it out. I mean, what was it, about an hour drive? Really, technically not that long, but we get people from like Juneau, Alaska. They come from Pittsburgh on like Memorial Day. People coming from Chicago, Pittsburgh, DC, just to come eat with us, you know, because they had an extra day off. Right? So an hour is not that far. Yeah. Well, make a reservation. Yeah. All right, sweet. Is that all? You feel you're good?
I got some beer for you.
Thank you so much.
And I have to wonder, as you're telling us your story, if you ever sleep. Do you sleep?
I sleep really well.
But starting a business like this at an institute that's never been done before, I can only imagine the trials that you probably went through to do this. And, you know, the fact that your business increased during the pandemic, that's pretty impressive. So, in recognition of your time with us today, we have this rendition of our Rotary wheel with our service above self on the front, and on the back is our 4-way test, and this is made locally by the Village Net.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so just a reminder, next week, we're gonna have a busy meeting next week. We have some scholarship recognition. We have a couple classification talks, and we also have a preview from OLL. So we'll see you next week, Rotarians. We stand adjourned.